look at you, back again. Watch another one of my videos. I'm kind of surprised, honestly, for the ones that keep coming back. All the 263 returning viewers, I appreciate you. Okay, I really do appreciate you because it keeps me going and it makes me want to provide more content. It gives me motivation. Okay, but in this video, as you've seen from the thumbnail and the title, we're going over macros again because in the first section or the first part, I did not go over the lunch macro and the final hour macro. Okay, so we're gonna be going over those not really today, but tonight because I'm recording this literally at 11 p.m., which is an hour away from midnight. Okay, so just appreciate me recording this because I should be asleep for school. I really should be, even though at the time of this recording, it's the last week of school for me. Like literally, the next day after this recording is recorded, that's my last day of school. But still, it's still nighttime and I'm recording for you, so I appreciate that. This is how much motivation I have when I say I have a lot of motivation because you guys keep coming back. This is what I mean. Anyways, starting with the lunch macro. It starts before I even say anything. Whenever I refer to any sort of time, as in like 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, 7:30, anything dealing with time, I'm always referring to New York time. Right there, you see that? New York local time, UTC -4. Understand? Okay, you understand. I heard you say yes behind that gigantic TV screen of yours or that tiny little phone screen of yours. Now that you know that or you're aware of that, we can now go over the lunch macro. The lunch macro starts at 11:30 a.m. and ends at 1:30 p.m. Okay, that's a 2-hour window. The lunch macro is programmed to do two things. Okay, consolidate and retrace. Okay, now within this macro, it can send price to do another two things, which is continue or reverse. Now let's go over the reversal scenario. If price wants to reverse, if you have the underlying narrative or the bias that price wants to reverse according to whatever you see on your chart, what price will do during the macro is it will consolidate. That's the only thing it can do if it wants to reverse. Okay, that is the only thing. Or if you want to say retrace, it can retrace back into the range to begin disrespecting all those other PD arrays that support the other side of the narrative. And once it retraces back into that range, probably the 150 to 210 macro kick in, it'll really start displacing into that original narrative that you had of it reversing. But typically, if it wants to reverse, it will consolidate. Okay, and that's really the only thing it's going to do. Now, for the continuation, it can do two things, which is consolidate and retrace. Okay, so it's, consolidation or accumulation. It's just simple. The lunch macro, it kicks in, then price consolidates. Once it leaves the macro, another macro kicks in, which is a 1050 to what is it, 1050 to 210 macro that will kick in and deliver price. Or just once the macro ends, sometimes what it'll do is it won't even wait for that 150 to 210 macro. It'll literally just deliver like 30 minutes before the macro ends. It can do that. I'm not saying it can't deliver. It's not going to consolidate the whole macro. That's just not going to happen. Okay, I can confidently say that the lunch macro is never just going to consolidate the whole time. It rarely does it. I'm not going to say it doesn't do it, but it can. But I wouldn't say you would want to expect the whole entire thing to consolidate. Okay, so just be aware that yeah, most of it might consolidate or it will consolidate temporarily, but either after the macro ends, it'll start to, propel price or continue price in this scenario, or 30 minutes before it ends or right before the macro ends, it'll begin to spool and start continuing. Okay. And then the final hour macro this is a lot of yapping. This is already a 5-minute recording, Jesus Christ, but I have to say this to you so you already have the verbal definition, so then we can print your idea of what you know onto this chart here. But the final hour macro is from 3:15 to 3:45. Okay, this macro is intended to do one thing: spool. Do you know what that word means? Spool. Do you know what that means? It means move fast, very, 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 very fast. That's what spool means, and you have to add that p into it. You have to really say spool, like spool. You gotta really say how ICT says it. Spool. Okay, this macro will spool and it'll start to act up. Okay, that's what it's intended to do. That's what it's programmed to do. The other thing it can do is it can consolidate. Okay, if it consolidates, it'll use the true final hour, which is 4 to 5 for futures or indices rather, which is stuff like the S&P 500 and the NAS 100 and the US 30. Those are like indices and stuff like that, and the Russell 2000, stuff like that. If it consolidates during the 3:15 to 3:45 p.m. that 30-minute macro, or that 30-minute time frame, which is the macro itself, if it consolidates, it'll use that last official hour or last true hour, which is, like I said, 4 to 5 p.m. to really start spooling. But it is intended to spool during the 4 to 5 area. And matter of fact, if it doesn't do it then what it's doing is it's just simply preparing for tomorrow's price action, okay? If it doesn't spool at all within the true final hour and then the final hour macro, then just know that tomorrow is going to be crazy, okay? Or Asian might be crazy. Let me just say that. Or Asian might have some good runs. And maybe London. But if it starts consolidating all the way at the end of the New York, then just expect either the whole next day to be very good, or it can just keep consolidating until price is ready, because price will do that. Now, a lot of talking, we can finally go into the charts, okay? We're going to immediately drop down to the 1 minute, and we're going to go over the lunch macro first. So wherever that is this today's price action? Yep, it is. This is indeed today's price action. All right, now, here is the macro. Let's highlight this. I'm going to do it above here. Oh, no, I'll do it lower like this. There we go. So wherever 130 is, right there, that's not 130, but 1130 to 130, which will be around here. Which was like a little, I think it's a little like dark blue to have it. Not too bright, you know what I'm saying? And we're just going to drag it down and match it with the 130 and 1130 mark down here. All right. So now we have our macro, which is in between this range right here. Now let's go over this real quick, but let's really pay attention to this, okay? Let's look at previous price action so we can understand what this lunch macro is trying to do. So let's start at the 9:30 opening, okay? 9:30 opening, boom, right there. There's 9:30. Spools higher into what? These relative equal highs and this intermediate term high right here. Why does it go to the intermediate term high? Isn't it not supposed to do that? No, because look what it did before it. It retraced into this fair value gap, respecting the lower half of it, okay? So this intermediate term high can be smashed through, and it's right next to these relative equal highs. Price goes up, smashes through it. What does it do right afterward? Inverses this fair value gap, retraces into it, then dumps, okay? After that, price accumulates. We have that final expansion down right here. We got that, it just goes down, right there. Doesn't break this swing. It doesn't break this swing. So we have kind of relative equal lows, but I personally wouldn't say relative equal lows. This low right here is a little too far. So we have two separate key swings. We got this low right here, and then this one. We're going to pay attention to this one. This one right here, we're going to pay attention to this. Let me select my demonstration tool. This one right here, you're going to see why that right there is so important for the lunch macro. You're about to see it in just a second. So after this consolidation and purge into these accumulated lows down here, what do? Well, we head right back up. Now here is 1130. Pay attention real quick, okay? At the first, I guess you could say first half of the lunch macro consolidates. Then we have power of 3 come through. Like I said earlier, the lunch macro isn't going to consolidate the whole time, okay? That's why the lunch macro is intended for analyzation, okay? I forgot to mention that also. Whenever the lunch macro kicks in, analyze, like just use your eyes, open your eyes, and really pay attention to what price is doing. Price accumulates for about an hour, then randomly it says choof into what? High. What is that? Relative equal highs. Are they? They're kind of similar. Let me see. Yeah, relative equal highs right here. So we're gonna make this our buy side liquidity. Price goes up, runs straight into that buy side liquidity right here. Now what does it do? Comes back down lower. Okay, comes back up into that fair value gap, respecting this equilibrium. If you want to eyeball it and see for yourself, here, come on. Let me see. We're gonna zoom in here. So you're probably like, oh, he's just lying. Nope. Wasn't lying to you, was I? Look at that. Respects that proportion, showing that it wants to go lower. Does it go lower? Sure does. And mind you, we're still in the lunch macro, okay? After that market structure shift, we come into that this right here, which is the dang, what is it? This fair value gap, and we respect the upper portion, showing that we want to go lower. Well, while we're doing that, or while we do that, we're consolidating even more, okay? Now, there's something that's called internal range trading. I'm not going to tell you that the lunch macro cannot be traded, because it most definitely can. It really can, okay? It really, really can. I'm not going to say it can't, because it can, okay? If it would have took this entry here and waited through the consolidation, also known as time distortion, and then once you see that displacement come through, you would have made some pretty good profit. That would have been how much? I think that's about 100 points. That's a lot. That's a lot of points. If you had one mini, that's $200. Okay, had 10, not 10 meters, not one mini, but if you had one micro, that's $200. Pretty dope, isn't it? And if you had 10 micros, that's 2,000. Yep, pretty cool, isn't it? And guess how many 10 micros is? It's $1,000. So you doubled your money. Amazing, isn't it? That's just a little reference if you want to see how much money you can make with futures. It's pretty insane. I recently figured out about futures, and man, I've been having a blast with it. It's just truly insane. But we come to that fair value gap, time to store a little bit more, and then we dump. Okay. Now watch this. ICT has said this before, and I'm going to re-utter it to you. ICT said, starting from 11:30, okay, you want to look for the latest swing. Okay, the latest swing before 11:30 and after 10 o'clock, okay? But starting from 11, okay? It must be after 10, right? But you start looking for this swing before 10:30. So you starting at 10:30, you go back and look for the latest swing, okay? I don't mean swings like this, like tiny little swings like this, or like all that, or this right here. No, I mean something like this. Yeah, you see how I was talking about that low earlier, right? You do see that. Now, not price, but ICT said that whenever you find that key swing, okay, and this is well, the reason I call this a key swing is because it's very spot out. If we zoom out and we look, you can clearly see that that's like it's in the spotlight right now. It's like right there in front of your face. Okay, you're gonna see, if you look at this chart and show it to your beginner, you're gonna be like, oh, well, price went down right here. Then they're gonna say that. Okay, they're gonna say that because it's so obvious and just it's right there in front of your face. You get what I'm saying? So that's why I call this a key swing, or you can call it a spotlight swing. You can call it that too, or spotlight low, whatever you want. But what ICT said is price will typically seek that low during the lunch macro. And that's why I said you can trade the lunch macro. But if you don't want to trade it, it can be used for strictly annualization purposes. If you have a different bias and the macro is doing something that you don't want it to do, hey, don't trade it and just use it for annualization. But you can trade it. Why? Because price will seek that latest swing before 10:30 during the lunch macro. And let's guess. Does it do it? Let's pull this out real quick. Does it hit it? Yes, it does. When does it hit it? Inside the lunch macro. You see that, right? You see how it hits it, but we're still within the macro, right? With this, anything within this blocks right here is within the macro. And does it hit it within the macro? Yes, sir. It does. It really does. So you see this, right? Yeah, very, very interesting, isn't it? Very, very, very interesting. Now that you understand that, let's go over the final hour macro. We're gonna go back, maybe like just a day maybe, to Tuesday's price action where we had that gigantic rally, which should be somewhere around here. I think wherever that rally is. Yeah, this entire rally right here. Yep. Yeah, all that rally higher. So let's go to that final hour macro, wherever that is. Okay, here we go. So this is a perfect example of what I was talking about earlier. And mind you, I just picked a random day. All I did was go backwards once. So don't be like, oh, you found a specific day and da 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 da. No. If I zoom out, you're gonna see that this is very recent price action. That was right here. And look, we're on the 15th. That was 2 days ago. So all I'm doing is just going back a couple days. Okay, so don't say, oh, you look for the perfect day. Da, 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 da. No, 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 no. Okay, just be glad that I'm teaching you this for free, because this is very valuable information that I spend hours looking for this information and searching through all of ICT's content, because as you know, his teachings are hours long, and I'm sure you guys want to go through that. So I'm making it easier by going through it and making it simple and just teaching it right here in front of your faces at 11:20 at night. All right, so I appreciate it. All right, now let's highlight this macro first. So 315 right here, all the way to wherever that is, 345. So there's that 30-minute window right there. All right, now. Like I said earlier, this macro is meant for spooling, okay? Not for analyzation purposes, so you can get a bias off of it, okay? You can, okay, now let me say this. I mean that to say, like, this isn't going to aid you like crazy, so it can give you like a huge narrative on like where price is really going to go for the day. No, you analyze the power hour. I mean, not, well, you can call it power hours because it's basically that. That's what people have been calling it for years. But you can analyze the final hour macro by seeing what it's doing within it, so you can catch that spool. Yes, but it's meant for spooling. Okay, why? Because the algorithm is like, okay, there's no one trading at this time, so we can do whatever we need to do. Now let's go ahead and do what we gotta do. Okay, let's do what we gotta do. You know what I'm saying? All right. So first, looking back previously, we got relative equal lows right down here. Got that relative equal low, that sell side liquidity. Then we also got some lows down here, which I probably wouldn't target because it's a little jagged. Okay. Now, since I just mentioned the word jagged, price will seek the smoother side of the market. What I mean by that is it'll seek the relative equal lows. You see how these are relative right here? See that? You see that, right? But these are relative too. Why didn't it come to it? Because price's narrative is to go lower. And it shows that by accumulating higher, right here, purging buy side, and accumulating sell side liquidity. And what does price do? What are the 1 out of 3 things that price is always going to do? Seek liquidity. So, if we have a bunch of sell side being accumulated down here, what is price going to do? It's going to seek it. And does it do it? Yes, it does. Wow. So crazy, isn't it? Absolutely amazing. I know. It's truly insane. Now let's actually analyze this macro. Nothing be happening, but you get the point. Here we go. So starting at 315, a little bit, about 15 minutes previously, we accumulated. Then the power hour kicked in and accumulated again. Now, I did say this earlier, the power hour, keep saying power hour, but that's really what it is. But the final hour macro can accumulate. I'm not going to say that it's always going to spool, because it can accumulate. So just be careful. If you see price not, I guess you say spooling, if it's not moving fast, then just wait. Get out your trade and wait for after 345, okay? As you can see, it's not going anywhere, right? You see every time it tries to comes to a low, doesn't do it. Tries to come to the low, doesn't break through it. Tries to come to the low, doesn't break through it. Goes higher, breaks that high, tries to come to the low, doesn't break through it, okay? But right when the macro ends, literally right when the macro ends on that candle, what does it do? It seeks out all the lows. So remember, like I said earlier, the final hour macro can consolidate, and if it does, it is very likely that the last true hour of the day will seek liquidity. It'll start spooling, okay? That's what this macro is for. What I mean by spooling is it'll rebalance imbalances, or it'll seek liquidity. That's what me and ICT or any ICT trade out there means by spooling. Or if they mean it in a different way, that is the true meaning, okay? When we say spooling, it is seeking rebalance and it is seeking liquidity. And what does it do? Rebalances this imbalance right here, rebalances this imbalance right here, and then also comes to that liquidity. Pretty amazing, isn't it? Yeah, I know. It's pretty insane. Now let's go ahead and go over this real quick. See if we can take a trade on this, Griff. So one, we can already establish or look at that liquidity void. Not liquidity void, but that liquidity purge right there. Then we come back come back into that inverse. We could have took that. Why could you have taken this? Isn't it still consolidating, JJ? No, the macro's about to end. What did I just say? If the final hour macro accumulates, what will the true final hour do? Or right after the macro do? It will spool. Does it do that? Yep. Comes into the inversion, comes down a little tad bit, then the macro ends and it finally leaves it consolidation. Okay. So we're going to take a sell right here at this inversion, right along there. Once we start respecting it, we can say right around here. We set our high, not high, but our stop loss at the inversion, at the high of the inversion. And then we set our target at sell side liquidity, which is right there, giving you a nice schmexy 4.8 risk to reward. Pretty nice, isn't it? Yeah, I know. Very nice. Very nice, okay? Now, I hope I taught you well when it comes to the second section of the macros, which includes, or has included, the final hour macro and the lunch macro. So, I'll say this again. I hope I taught you well. It's 11:25. I don't know how I'm not tired while teaching you this, because normally at this time I'll be real tired, and in my teaching it'll be very insufficient. Okay, you won't be learning with me being tired, but I'm very energetic right now, as you can clearly see. But I hope I taught you well. I hope you absorbed it. I hope you can use this in the market so you can take advantage of these rigged markets, because this market truly is rigged. You know this. And I'll be seeing you guys on the next one. Good luck and good trading.